diner's neon light flickered against the rain-slick pavement. Across the street, a young woman sat barefoot beside a grocery store wall, clutching a cardboard sign that read, "One food equals one life." Motorcycles rolled past without slowing until one stopped. Its rider, a grizzled Hell's Angel, cut the engine and stared. "Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day." The small town of Hollow Bend, tucked deep in Missouri's back roads, had a way of forgetting people. It forgot its veterans, its widows, and its hungry, one rainstorm at a time. That night, the street was quiet except for the hum of flickering lights and the low purr of Harley engines. The chapter had just finished their charity run for a local shelter when their captain, Dean Mercer, noticed her. A young woman in her 20s, soaked to the bone, hair matted to her face, holding that sign like it was the last thing keeping her alive. One food equals one life. Dean slowed his bike, engine rumbling beside her. She didn't look up, just clutched her backpack tighter. "You hungry?" he called out. No answer, just a shiver. The other bikers waited behind, uneasy. Dean reached into his saddlebag, pulled out a wrapped sandwich, and handed it over. She hesitated before whispering, "It's not for me." Her voice cracked. "It's for my brother. He's starving." Dean crouched down beside her, the rain dripping off his leather cut. "Where's your brother?" he asked gently. Her hands trembled as she pointed toward an alley behind the closed laundromat. "He's sick. Been days since he's eaten." Dean gestured for two bikers, Axel and Cody, to follow. They found the boy curled beneath an old blanket, pale, feverish, no older than 10. Dean swore under his breath. "Jesus!" The girl knelt beside the child. "His name's Toby. We ran away 2 towns back. Our foster dad, he—" Her words stopped in her throat. Dean didn't press. He slipped off his jacket and wrapped it around the boy. "You did good getting him this far." She stared at him, disbelief flickering behind exhaustion. "People usually cross the street when they see us." Dean smiled faintly. "We're not people. We're angels." His voice was rough but kind. "Come on, let's get him warm." Behind him, the Hell's Angels lined up their bikes, headlights cutting through the mist like a convoy of salvation. They brought the siblings back to the Angels' local hangout, an old mechanic's garage converted into a clubhouse called Mercy Ironworks. Inside, the smell of coffee and motor oil filled the air. Doc, the club's medic, lifted Toby carefully onto a couch near the heater. "Malnourished," he muttered. "Kid needs food and rest." The girl stood awkwardly by the door, her bare feet leaving wet prints on the floor. "Name?" Dean asked, handing her a towel. "Lena," she replied softly. "Lena Carter." She watched as the bikers moved, some cooking, others finding clothes, one adjusting the heater closer. The tattoos, the scars, the rough edges, they should have terrified her. But something about the way they worked in silence, steady and focused, felt safe. Dean knelt beside her again. "You got anyone looking for you?" She shook her head. "They won't. Nobody ever does." His jaw tightened. "They do now." Outside, rain turned to snow, the sound of the wind muffled by the steady hum of the Harley engines cooling in the night. By morning, Toby's fever had broken. He was wrapped in a leather jacket 2 sizes too big, sipping soup with shaky hands. Lena sat beside him, her shoulders finally lowering from days of fear. "You can stay here for now," Dean told her. "We got beds upstairs. Ain't fancy, but it's warm." She looked up, startled. "Why would you do that for strangers?" Dean shrugged. "We've all been strangers once." Around them, the clubhouse buzzed softly with laughter, bikers teasing each other, Doc bandaging a scraped knuckle, Axel tuning a carburetor. Lena looked around, confused. "You guys don't seem like what everyone says." Dean chuckled. Yeah, we get that a lot. He poured her coffee, sliding the mug across the table. This patch don't make us perfect. It just means we don't quit on people. Lena hesitated before taking a sip. The warmth hit her throat, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel invisible. Outside, sunlight finally broke through the clouds. That afternoon, Dean drove Lena and Toby to the local diner for a hot meal. The waitress, recognizing the biker cuts, stiffened. "We don't serve," she began, but Dean's look silenced her. He nodded toward Lena and the boy. "They're eating." The woman swallowed, eyes darting between them, and nodded. As Toby devoured pancakes, Lena's eyes filled with tears. "No one's ever stood up for us like that." Dean's voice was quiet. "That's because no one's looked close enough to see your worth." She smiled faintly. "You talk like a preacher." Dean laughed. "Nah, I just got tired of being the bad guy in other people's stories." On the wall behind them hung a photo. Hell's Angels lined up beside a food truck labeled, "Ride for Relief." Lena stared. "You do charity rides?" Dean nodded. "Every month. For shelters, hospitals, vets." She blinked. "I thought bikers only fought." Dean smirked. "We do. Just depends what we're fighting for." That evening, Lena helped wash dishes in the clubhouse kitchen, though no one had asked her to. The clatter of plates, the hiss of running water. It all reminded her of a time when life was simpler, before running, before hunger. Dean leaned on the counter beside her, arms crossed. "You don't owe us chores," he said. She gave a small smile. "Feels good to do something normal." He nodded. "Normal's underrated." Outside, the garage door rattled open. Axel returning from a ride. He tossed Dean a paper bag from the pharmacy. "Kids' medicine," he said. "On the house." Lady at the counter said, "Tell the angels thanks for what they did last winter." Lena's brow furrowed. "What did you do last winter?" Dean's grin softened. "Snowstorm hit a nursing home 20 miles out. We delivered food and firewood." Her lips parted, surprised. "So the stories about you," he shrugged. "Some true, some told by folks who never looked close enough." Over the next few days, the Carter siblings became part of the rhythm of Mercy Ironworks. Toby followed the bikers like a shadow, fascinated by the machines. "You ever ride one?" Axel asked him, laughing. The boy's eyes widened. "No, but I'd like to." The garage echoed with the sound of tools and laughter, the kind that stitched a broken heart without notice. Lena began helping Doc with inventory, learning names of medicines she could barely pronounce. The men treated her like a sister, joking gently, never crossing lines. It was new, a kind of safety that didn't demand anything in return. But outside, whispers grew. The local sheriff's deputy stopped by, his cruiser idling. "You picked up 2 runaways," he said flatly. Dean stood tall. "We picked up 2 kids who were starving." The deputy eyed their patches. "You think this town needs more angels?" Dean's stare was cold steel. "No, it needs more humans." The cruiser rolled away, but the tension stayed. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She sat by the window upstairs, looking down at the rows of parked bikes gleaming beneath the security lights. Each one represented something she hadn't felt in years, belonging. Dean's office light still glowed below. She crept downstairs quietly, stopping when she saw him hunched over the counter, reading an old newspaper clipping. It showed a group of Hell's Angels unloading crates after a flood, his late brother among them. Dean caught her glance. "He started this chapter," he said quietly. "Died on a charity run 3 years back. I promised to keep it going." Lena nodded slowly. "He'd be proud." Dean gave a half-smile. "Maybe. He used to say, 'Kindness don't look soft if it rides steel.'" The words hung in the air. Lena whispered, "That's what you gave us. Steel kindness." Dean chuckled softly, eyes glinting. "Then keep it polished." For the first time in months, She laughed, and didn't sound broken doing it. 2 days later, trouble found them. A black pickup truck slowed outside the clubhouse, its engine growling low. Dean's instincts sharpened. He stepped outside, motioning the others to stay back. The driver rolled down the window, a scarred man with the hard eyes of someone used to power. "You got my kids," he spat. Lena froze. It was their old foster father, Harlan Briggs. "They ain't yours," Dean said calmly. "Not anymore," Harlan sneered. "Paperwork says otherwise. You hiding minors? That's kidnapping." Behind him, a second truck idled, men inside grinning with malice. Dean didn't flinch. "They're safe. Something you never gave them." Harlan stepped out, chest puffed, jaw tight. "You think those patches make you above the law?" Dean's voice dropped. "No, but they make us stand up to cowards who use it wrong." The standoff thickened, until Toby's small voice cut through. "Please, don't hurt him, Mr. Dean." Dean looked back, and that single plea turned resolve into fire. Axel, Doc, and 3 other angels stepped out beside Dean, forming a silent wall of leather and loyalty. Rain began to fall, soft but steady, tapping against the chrome. Harlan smirked, mistaking calm for weakness. "You're not heroes," he growled. "You're trash pretending to save strays." Dean's eyes hardened. "Then maybe the world needs better trash." He took a step forward. Harlan's men shifted uneasily. Something about the way the angels stood, unflinching, made them rethink the fight. Axel's voice was low. "You can leave now or you can limp away later. Your choice." The air crackled like before a thunderclap. Then Harlan cursed, spat at the ground, and turned back to his truck. "This ain't over," he snarled. Dean didn't move until both vehicles disappeared into the dark. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was a line drawn. Behind him, Lena whispered, "They'll come back." Dean nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready." The next morning, the news spread fast. Bikers threaten local man. The story twisted by gossip before truth could breathe. The diner turned cold again. Old friends avoided eye contact. Even the sheriff stopped answering calls. But inside Mercy Ironworks, resolve only deepened. Dean paced the garage, maps and radio schematics spread out. "If Briggs tries again," he told the crew, "we don't swing first. We protect." Axel leaned back on a crate. "Protect how? Half the town thinks we're devils." Dean's jaw tightened. "Then we'll remind them what angels look like." Lena listened quietly from the doorway. "I'll talk to them," she said. "The townsfolk. They'll listen to me now." Dean shook his head. "They'll chew you up, kid." "They already did once," she said softly. "They won't again." He studied her face, exhausted but steady. The same courage his brother once carried. Finally, he nodded. "All right, you tell them the truth. We'll stand behind it." The next day, Lena stood in front of Miller's diner, the same place she'd been turned away. The morning air smelled of bacon and distrust. Townsfolk watched her like she was a ghost who'd forgotten her place. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "You all know what you heard, but you don't know what they did." Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. "My brother was dying in an alley. The angels fed him, sheltered him, protected us when no one else would." Murmurs rippled. A few looked down. "You call them criminals?" she said. "Then call them the kindest criminals I've ever met." Inside, Toby pressed his face to the window, watching his sister stand taller than she ever had. Dean, from the parked Harley, met her gaze with pride. When she finished, the diner stayed silent. But silence wasn't rejection, it was realization. For the first time, Hollow Bend listened. The truth had a heartbeat again. By afternoon, the tide began to turn. The diner owner brought out a tray of sandwiches for the kids, pretending not to look at Dean when she set them down. The mechanic across town dropped off blankets. Even the deputy returned quietly with an apology half hidden behind his badge. But peace, like mercy, rarely lasts unchallenged. That night, the rumble of engines came again. Different sound, harsher, metallic. Harlan Briggs had returned, this time with 4 pickup trucks filled with men and bats. The angels were ready. Headlights cut through the night as Dean's crew rolled their bikes forward, forming a semicircle across the yard. The roar of engines met the growl of trucks, 2 storms colliding under a moonlit sky. Lena stood on the porch, holding Toby close. "Stay inside," Dean said without looking back. She shook her head. "Not this time." Her voice trembled, but her feet stayed planted. Fear wasn't her master anymore.